Jeremy Corbyn lies about the NHS and the Tories, the Labour Party get exposed over their minimum wage policy, and Richard Burgon gets owned in another Sky interview with Kay Burley. Now, you know it's election time when the Labour Party going around saying we have 6 weeks to save the NHS. Our NHS, the NHS that we made, the Labour Party, for the people. And it's happening again, so get ready. Jeremy Corbyn the other day tweeted that this general election is a once-in-a-generation chance to save and rebuild our NHS. Now, he makes it sound like the NHS is going down or being sold off, but it's not the first time that the Labour Party have been doing this. This happens every couple of years, but especially at every election. Now, going back 22 years, in April 1997, Tony Blair said there are 14 days to save the NHS. In March 2009, Labour said that we have 6 weeks to save our NHS. Again in 2012, Ed Miliband said we have just 3 months to save the NHS. Going forward to 2014 and 2015, again Labour said we have 5 days to save the NHS, 4 months to save the NHS, and we only have 100 days to save the NHS, and we know it. Now in this video we're going to talk about the facts about the NHS and the Tories and the legacy of the Labour Party with it. Now, the irony is that they say that every time the Conservatives are in government, the NHS is basically going down, or they're gonna get rid of it. Now, the NHS is 71 years old. Out of that 71 years, 44 years of it happened under a Conservative government. And in terms of the records, let's actually look at the facts about the history of the NHS. Now, before we actually continue, I have to say that I understand a lot of people love the idea of the NHS and the cult and the religion of it, but at the same time, I believe in reforming the system. I believe in using best case studies in Europe to make sure that we have a more efficient healthcare system. But at the same time, we have to expose Labour because of the lies that they keep spreading about this topic. Now, let's look at the NHS timeline. The Labour Party claimed that they came up with the idea and they gave us the NHS. In fact, it was Winston Churchill's government, the Conservative government in 1940, that commissioned the report into a national health service. And it was in 1942 that the Liberal politician Beveridge delivered that report and the blueprint. In 1945, Churchill proposed the NHS in his election manifesto but lost. And then 3 years later, it was the Labour Party that stole the same policy and actually delivered the NHS. And obviously in 1951, when Churchill came back, it was his own policy, so he actually gave more money than even the Labour Party did to the NHS. And looking at the facts, even under the current Conservative government, as you can see over the last few years, the spending is still going up, despite the lies that the Socialists are spreading about the Conservatives cutting the NHS budget. Now, this is the exact reason that in this current election, when people and voters were asked, who do you trust more with the NHS, 40% of voters have said that they trust the Conservatives more than they trust the Labour Party, which is only on 34%. And it's showing in the polls because people understand the reality. The people of this country are not generally stupid. They know when politicians or the media lie to them. They can do their own research and they understand what's happening around their life. And the other thing that's been going around, the Labour's manifesto and the kind of policy program is going to be based on another lie, which is about Trump and the NHS. Now, this is only based on one question that Trump was asked when he was with Boris Johnson the other month about the trade deal, the potential trade deal with America. He was asked if the NHS will be on the table. At the time, he had no idea what the NHS was, so he was just like, yeah, everything's on the table. It's a trade deal. It's going to be a great trade deal. Best trade deal ever. But then obviously, hours later, when he was clarified about what the NHS was actually about and how it worked, he came out and he confirmed that obviously the healthcare system is not, we're not going to buy it, it's not for sale, it's not part of the trade deal. Now obviously when it comes to the pharmaceutical and a lot of the assets and everything that kind of involved in hospitals, that's irrelevant because, with or without a trade deal, American firms or European firms still have access to the NHS if they want to sell into it and if they want to help modernize the system. But it's not really the case that somehow Boris Johnson is going to sell the NHS to America. Why on earth would anyone want to buy the NHS? It's not really a good system. This is why the voters are now taking the Conservative side instead of the Labour side for once. It's the first time it's ever happened in any election. But the Labour Party's hypocrisy is actually showing in Wales. In Wales, Labour is running the healthcare system, and we know the quality of outcome and efficiency is absolutely terrible. But one interesting character, who this person has been hired to be the cost cutter, and who's paid £2,000 per day by the Labour government in Wales, and he's basically spending all the money on a kind of luxurious life, and he's living in Spain. This is the typical evidence of bureaucrats spending and wasting the taxpayers' money. But it's not just healthcare and the NHS that shows the Labour Party's hypocrisy, obviously. Now, one of the main things that they always push for is this idea of a higher minimum wage. Now, Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party sent out this tweet about McDonald's. Now, Corbyn said that last year, in the UK alone, McDonald's made profits of £341 million, yet it doesn't pay its workers enough to get by. So they're organising for a £15 an hour, guaranteed hours each week, and union recognition. So he's obviously defending a movement that happened in McDonald's, and he says it's a good idea, we should have £15 an hour minimum wage. Now, when it comes to the Labour Party itself, and if you want to get a job at the Labour Party or with Labour MPs, this is how much they're going to pay you. Now, if you want to work for Stephen Twigg, the MP for Liverpool West Derby, you can only get paid £10.55 an hour. If you want to work for Tracy Brabin, you get paid £10 an hour. If you want to work for Luke Pollard, the MP for Plymouth, Sutton and Devonport, you get paid £10.55 an hour. And it's the same with if you want to work for Kerry McCarthy, the MP for Bristol East. Yes, this is the Labour Party. They preach something, but they don't actually practice it. Now, when it comes to Jeremy Corbyn, we're always told that he's a very principled man and he doesn't obviously change his mind. How do we know he's principled? For example, when it comes to the environment, we know he's pro-green. Why? Well, this is an interview and debate that Catherine West, the Labour MP, did against the Green co-leader. And just watch the interview and then see what happens.
I think Jonathan is quite correct to have the vision, but in terms of implementing a green vision, it is not business as usual. If you are describing Jeremy Corbyn as business as usual, then you haven't been reading the newspapers or watching the television. He was green before the Greens existed. He rode a bike. He's got an allotment. He will do both. He will bring social justice and a green revolution. So have the vision on the Greens, but vote Labour if you really want it to happen.
It's got to be more than an allotment. And let's just look at the facts. In 2017,
John,
there was 40...
stop mansplaining? This is the first day of the election,
I'm talking to Adam.
And Adam has asked me to respond, and if you continue to mansplain, I'll have to complain.
Please don't resort to sexism when we're trying to have a conversation about the facts.
Well, could you stop mansplaining? I've asked you 3 times. Now, could I just continue on that point, Adam? I was so rudely interrupted by my colleague here.
No, it's absolutely hilarious because Jonathan's trying to basically just defend his own argument and he's being accused of mansplaining. So if you basically happen to be a man and trying to debate, you're mansplaining. Yeah. Now, but the funny thing is, because of the ending of this interview and this debate, people forgot about the main part of this argument. Now, let's go back to the main point, which is even more hilarious.
He was green before the Greens existed. He rode a bike. He's got an allotment. He's got an allotment.
Oh, yes. Jeremy Corbyn is pro-green because he's got an allotment. I mean, literally upstairs here, I've got kind of few plants and kind of herbs and stuff. That means I'm very, very green. I'm more green than the Green Party because that's how it works. If you have a garden, you're basically very, very green. Now, in other news, you remember Richard Burgon, the Labour MP, who recently was interviewed by Keir Burley about the polling that's showing the Labour Party can't really get a majority government unless the Brexit Party completely split the votes with the Tories. And then she said that, Richard Burgon said, but people said we're not going to win the 2017 election, but look at us. And Keir Burley said, well, you didn't win the 2017 election. Now, we have another example. Let's watch this, another interview between Keir Burley and Richard Burgon.
Liberal Democrats have said they have no interest whatsoever in a partnership as long as Jeremy Corbyn is at the helm. Would that be a deal breaker as far as you're concerned?
Well, I remember the Liberal Democrats wanted Gordon Brown removing as well.
And he was removed.
But it's not for the Liberal Democrats to decide who the leader of the Labour Party is.
Yes, seriously, these people could be running our government. These people could be soon in charge of your life and making decisions on your behalf. This is a swamp in the establishment. And this is why we have to get ready for this election. We have to be very careful how we're voting. And as you requested before, we have now prepared the new t-shirts and merchandise. Drain the Swamp, 12th of December 2019. You could find the link in the description. You could also get this in coffee mugs and phone cases and everything else. And as always, if you want to keep up to date with the Brexit news and the election news, you could follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Obviously, videos come out every day, so don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell next to it so you get notified when I release a new video. As always, I'm Tousi, and I'll see you tomorrow with a new video.